What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Thank you guys so much for joining our weekly live shows. We got a lot to break down on today's program, and I'm very excited to chop it up with you guys and just talk a little Vikings football. But before we dive into it, let's get the comment section flooded. Give me the skulls down below in the chat and show off your purple pride, as we already got Squad, Roger Bong, United Mexican States, Skull Nation, a bunch of real ones in the chat. How is everybody doing today? As Kevin O'Connell, I didn't really think this was like breaking news, but during his press conference today, wrapping up the OTA sessions for the Minnesota Vikings, he did pretty much announce Sam Darnold as QB1 heading into training camp that gets going. I think it was July 27th they did announce. But Ben in the chat, shout out to you. Get the bag in the chat. Minnesota Avengers, Drew Dom saying Skull Pat. Shout out to you, Drew. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sam Darnold, he will be QB1 heading into the season, which, that was pretty expected. Pretty expected from that front. And Harvey Buxton, welcome in, saying Skull down in the chat. Riley saying Sammy D, QB1. Yes, Sammy Dimes will be quarterback one for the Minnesota Vikings. As Riley saying he's going to shock. Hey, good segue there, Riley. I want you guys to name a player that will break out in 2024 for the Minnesota Vikings. I did forget somebody. Shout out to Ty Man, the Buckeye, for tuning in. Chat Sports legend here at the company. But I want you guys to name a player that will break out in 2024. As Portia is saying, Justin Jefferson, he's already broken out. I'm not going to count that one. Skull Nation saying Cam Bynum. I like that, but I already consider Cam Bynum, already a player who's broken out before. United Mexican States saying T.J. Hawkinson. I already think T.J. Hawkinson already has made a name for himself. If I had to go a breakout player, a guy who I think is going to take a massive jump this upcoming year, I'm going to go towards a linebacker position, and maybe you already think he's broken out after his rookie year. I'm going to go Ivan Pace. I think Ivan Pace is going to assert himself as a Pro Bowl level linebacker, where we are talking about him, being almost the face of the defense moving forward. So I'm going to go Ivan Pace, but, some people, maybe have already considered him. Yeah, sweet Prince Ivan Pace, Trace tells me, is totally not a pro gamer, saying Harrison Phillips. Get the bag, saying Blake Cashman. I like to call him Blake Cashman. I think he's going to have a big year as well. Harvey Buxton going Kyrie Jackson. I would have chose Kyrie Jackson as well, but he's a rookie, so it's like, I don't want to put, too much stock into that. Riley Stoven going N'Keal Harry. That's an interesting one, considering he is making that switch to tight end. And then Jaden Berry's going Blake Brandel. That's another good one as well, Now, Jalen Reagor, Trace just said Jalen Reagor. I'm pretty sure Jalen Reagor's still on the Patriots, if I'm not mistaken, but he was a guy I was definitely talking about last year, man, being a breakout. As Max Cordozo saying Jonathan Bullard is going to be pretty good. Yeah, I agree. Ben saying Dallas Turner as well. But let's kick into this. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Who is your favorite Vikings player of all time? I put this as a community post a couple days ago saying, what Vikings player made you fall in love with this football team? For me, it was Adrian Peterson, but if I had to go, maybe not a chalk answer like AP, God, that made me really fall in love. And who was my favorite player of all time? Like a guy like Sidney Rice back in 2009, absolutely loved him. Maybe I don't know. We got Adrian Peterson coming to chat. Randy Moss, yes, Randy Moss as well. Riley going Percy Harvin. Harrison Smith or Adam Thielen, yeah, one of those guys. Harvey Buxton going Josh Dobbs, yeah. Cole Pepper's another great one. Fran Tarkenton coming in from Roger Bong. Yeah, I feel like if you're an older fan, Fran Tarkenton was the guy that, really made you fall in love with this football team, as, he was the first dual threat quarterback in the NFL. Also John Randall. A random one, I could go Phil Lodeholt just because of how, what a behemoth he was at the right tackle position. Jaden Berry going Everson Griffin, that's another good one. I loved Anthony Barr as well, but I just want to see what you guys had to say about a favorite Viking player of all time.
As a Saints fan, my favorite is Adrian Peterson and Brett Favre.
Adrian Peterson. He's saying AP and Brett Favre. We're not going to get
remember all those fumbles and the interceptions? That was fun.
Yeah. You know what? Fine. I'll say Stefon Diggs is my favorite Vikings player of all time.
Hey. If you were smart, you would have said Kyle Rudolph, too.
Yeah, Kyle Rudolph, too. Actually, Rudy is actually probably one of my favorite Vikings players of all time. Case Keenum, that's another good one as well. But, guys, we are going to have a mailbag coming up here in about 30 or 40 minutes or so. So, hashtag Vikings is the best way to get your question up on screen. Ask anything about this football team heading into training camp that's going to be in about 5 weeks or so right now. Or you guys can ask about, free agents you want the Vikings to sign. We're going to be talking, some trade rumors if you guys want to talk about that. But also, if you guys want to support the show, sending in a super chat is the best way to do so. Just kind of sends a message to my bosses that, we want more Vikings content in our life, and, the more money we raise on our weekly live shows is a great way to do so, and plus, I would, absolutely really appreciate it if you guys could. But coming up on today's show, so first off, I'm going to be talking about 5 players I could see the Vikings trading for before the season and during the season, and then I wanted to kind of get the good vibes going a little bit and, maintain this positive momentum we have around the Minnesota Vikings. I got a segment where I'm going to be explaining why I think this was one of the best off seasons ever for the Minnesota Vikings and why I think their master plan is kind of sort of coming together, as training camp approaches. And then plus, you guys see that picture up on screen, Stefon Diggs. He had some interesting comments around the Vikings trade of sending him to Buffalo. I'll share with you guys that quote. And then also, like I said, mailbag. So use hashtag Vikings if you guys want to get in on the show. And then, hey, if you guys are ready, you guys could just drop a like. Hey, if we get 3 more likes, we'll start today's program, and we'll talk about 5 players that I think the Vikings could possibly be trading for this offseason. But, hey, if we get 3 more likes, we'll be ready to go. Just need 2 more, as Yogi Bear is saying Matt Blair as the favorite Viking. Ty Man saying like it up. Yes, sir, Ty Man. Christian Ponder as your favorite Viking. I'm sure that's satirical. As Ben saying, don't get Diggs. No, we're not going to talk about Stefon Diggs coming to the Vikings. We're going to talk about his comments around this football team. But, hey, we just got the 23 likes. Appreciate it, guys. But let's talk about 5 players I could see the Vikes. You said what? No. I hope they aren't going to trade for Stefon Diggs. Yeah, all right. Let's get into the latest trade rumors around this football team right now. We're talking trades on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. What's going on, guys? My name is Patrick Siepman. Come up on today's show, I want to go over 5 big-time trade ideas for the Vikings that will help improve their roster heading into the season. As, with some extra cap space and possibly getting an extra pick from the Falcons due to them violating some tampering rules. Could they be in the trade market? We'll talk about it here in a second. But speaking of the Falcons, we are still in our subscriber battle with Falcons today here by Chat Sports. I want to absolutely bury them as they, I don't want to say they took Kirk Cousins from us, but hey, that's his new ball club. So I want to beat him in subscribers. So if you guys could lock us in and hit that subscribe button and help us reach 27,000 subs. If we could hit that before the season, it would be absolutely awesome. But the first trade target we're going to talk about on today's show is Treylon Burks, the wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. As a former first-round pick, he's got major juice to his game. And, he hasn't been able to get his feet wet in the NFL just yet, as, he has been dealing with injuries and just overall inconsistent quarterback play in Tennessee is a big reason why he's only got, just under 700 yards in his career so far. But he was a former first-round pick. He has the ability to do so. A pro comp for him coming out of college was A.J. Brown, a big body receiver who is a freak athlete. But, the stats, they don't really lie for Treylon Burks. He has struggled in his NFL career. You could chalk it up to quarterback play, or his personal performance. But, no doubt he has not lived up to the first-round hype. And the Vikings, we have said it. Wide receiver 3 could be a position they are going to target before this season. We've talked about Hunter Renfrow or signing Michael Thomas. Like, we've talked about some of these guys. What if it's a guy on the trade market like Treylon Burks? And then you would have 3 first-round picks as your top 3 receivers at the wide receiver spot, being Jefferson, Addison, and then obviously Treylon Burks. But, my take on it is if it's for a day 3 pick, I'd do it. I'd roll the die on him, see if he can live up to that first-round hype, and then let's just say he is, or if he is, somewhat of who he was supposed to be coming out of college, like, you would have 3 stud receivers, and you would have 3, different types of receivers, where Treylon Burks would be that big body, physical, red zone threat type of guy. Jordan Addison would be the kind of elusive possession receiver. And then also Treylon Burks could play some X on the outside. And we know Jefferson, he can play all over the field. He is the perfect receiver, the most complete receiver. So I would like how each 3 of those guys would complement each other, if he were to join the Minnesota Vikings. But kick at the number 2 here, dressing the cornerback position, as this is a name that's been tossed around a lot in the latest trade rumors amongst NFL teams. Greg Newsome II from the Cleveland Browns. Now, I loved him coming out of Northwestern, a very intelligent football player. There's some sweet quotes from his former head coach at Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, talking about how awesome Greg was for instilling a culture in that program, but he had a pretty good year last year. I mean, the completion percentage allowed was only 56.7, had 14 pass breakups and 2 interceptions, also had a touchdown on the year as well. But, his career numbers, like, he has been pretty consistent for Cleveland. I don't know if he was living up to the hype he had around him coming out, but he is a damn good football player. He is a smart football player, and he's been consistent during his time in Cleveland. I mean, last year was his best year of his career, no doubt about it. So would Cleveland want to move on? Who knows in that regard. But, in terms of the Vikings, like, why not take a chance on a guy like Greg Newsome? Like, just adding more talent, adding another body into that cornerback room for Brian Flores, and just kind of give him another chess piece he can deploy. I think he would be a great option because, this Vikings cornerback room, like, love what we have in, like, B-level guys, like the Kyrie Jacksons, the Mekhi Blackmans, the Caleb Evans. Like, I love those guys. I just think the Vikings need another one, and you just kind of play the game of hoping one of those guys takes that next step in being a true cornerback 1. But speaking of a true cornerback 1, this is the best name on this list. This is Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback for the New Orleans Saints. Says, he has had some battles against our Vikings receivers in the past, and there's no doubt he is one of the best cornerbacks still in the National Football League. And this could be a deadline move or a move right before the season. I don't think the Saints are going to move off him this summer at all, as he seems happy to be there, showing up to minicamp this week. The trade rumors around him have kind of died down, but let's just say New Orleans starts off the season slow and the Vikings start off hot. Maybe they're like, hey, screw it, we'll throw you guys a first-round pick or whatever it may be for Marshawn Lattimore. Maybe that could be an option, but his contract definitely plays a big part here. So 2024, his cap hit is at $14.6 million, but then it skyrockets the next 2 years. As 2025, he would be making $31.4 million. This is the key part from the Viking side of things. Jefferson, he's making a boatload of money in 25. You're assuming Christian Darrisaw, he's going to be making a ton of money. TJ Hawkinson's making $20 million. And then you just got other players at other positions, eating up a lot of the cap space. Like, could the Vikings afford to have that cap hit? Probably not. But in terms of the production, in terms of on the field, like, Marshawn Lattimore would be, if I had to pick any player to add to this Vikings team, it would probably be a high-end corner. Marshawn Lattimore is probably on this list. He has been awesome for the Saints over the past couple of seasons. Has been in and out of the lineup over the past 2 years, only playing 17 games. But, man, he is special. He is an elite talent. I mean, I just think about that London game a couple years ago when it was him and Jefferson just going back and forth. And, Jefferson raved about him after the game. So, Lattimore, he would be a true CB1 the Vikings could trade for. But, again, very unlikely that a deal like that does get done. But another true cornerback 1 and a younger option for the Minnesota Vikings, Pat Surtain II. And, do I think Sean Payton would throw the Vikings a bone and send them Pat Surtain? Probably not. But maybe the Vikings are sitting there and they're looking at, the tampering allegations going on in Atlanta. Maybe they get word from the league office saying, we're going to give you Atlanta's first-round pick. Maybe the Vikings say, screw it. We'll send our own first-round pick to the Denver Broncos for Pat Surtain. And then looking at this cornerback group, if you just move Byron Murphy over the cornerback 2, Shaq Griffin the cornerback 3, and slotted in Pat Surtain as your cornerback 1, it completely changed the look of this entire room. And then you have guys that can rotate in like Evans, Blackman, Kyrie Jackson, where they wouldn't have, the load of responsibility being, a big rotational piece. They can just kind of play more of a role in this secondary. But Pat Surtain, no doubt about it, man. He is, top 3 corner in the league. It's probably him, Sauce Gardner, and a couple other guys, but he is awesome, man. And Pat Surtain throughout his NFL career, 187 tackles, 3 TFLs, 36 PBUs, and 7 interceptions. Now, I know it's controversial considering the Vikings' limited draft capital they have next season. They only have their first and 2 fifth-round picks for a total of 3 picks. But I would trade next year's first for Pat Surtain. Like, if the Vikings are true about saying their Super Bowl window is when McCarthy is on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th year of his rookie contract, take advantage of it. Go all out. Go get a true blue-chip player in the secondary like Pat Surtain. And plus, with what's going on in Atlanta, the Vikings could get a 2nd or a 1st-round pick there. So I would roll the die on it. I would 100% do it. But let me know. Would you trade a 1st-round pick for Pat Surtain? Controversial, I know, considering the Vikings draft, compensation for the next couple of years. I don't know if many people would agree with this. But, hey, give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass if you would trade a 1st-round pick for Pat Surtain. Now, another wide receiver here. This is Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. And again, another former 1st-round pick who had a big-time talent coming out of LSU. And he, again, just hasn't been able to really get his feet wet in Carolina. And, throughout his career, only has accumulated 64 receptions, 767 yards, 12 yards per catch, and only 1 touchdown. So he hasn't, lived up to that expectation that he had coming out. But again, like if the Vikings want to add more true raw talent to this wide receiver room, Terrace is a great choice. And, I don't want to blame it on his lack of production for him just being in Carolina, but, I would definitely say that a change of scenery could 100% help his play. Like if he would come to Minnesota and he would, being able to just be a rotational piece with Brandon Powell and some other guys, like I think that's where he would thrive. So, out of all these guys, if I had to pick one, it's probably Pat Surtain. But again, he, cost the most, no doubt about it. But hey, there are some options out there for the Vikings if they want to add another wide receiver to this group, like a Terrace Marshall or like a guy like a Treylon Burks. But hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, if you guys could give me a skull down there in the chat, want it to look like US Bank Stadium on game day, would really appreciate it. And just shout out to all of you guys for watching this entire show. And if you guys want more around the Minnesota Vikings on Twitter, that's the handle right there, @PatSeeps. Give me a follow over there. And if you guys give me a follow, I'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. As always, Skol Vikes. Alrighty, let me know. Would you trade a 1st-round pick for Pat Surtain? We got a bunch of skulls flowing in the chat. I really appreciate it. As Roger saying, I think they're running Dwight McGlothern with the ones. Yeah, that was on one day. Yeah, Arkansas legend. That was, I think it was on the 3rd day of minicamp. McGlothern was getting a ton of reps with the ones at practice. And actually, it was a cool clip. It was Byron Murphy. It was like 45 minutes after practice ended, and him and McGlothern were just kind of going back and forth, running one-on-one routes with each other. And then Murphy was just giving him a bunch of tips and tricks. So, it was pretty cool. But as a lot of passes are coming in the chat, and yeah, I understand that. Like, the Vikings only having 3 picks next season. Like, it's tough to, talk about trading draft capital for these guys. But, I guess my counter argument would be, what player in the 1st round that are you going to draft that's going to be the same level as him? And there's probably not one out there. And, he's a blue chip player. Vikings need help in the secondary. So, I would do it, but I totally understand, why somebody would not. But hey, we're going to have a mailbag coming up.
One key thing here with this is Pat Surtain comes ready to play right now. If you draft a
That's
player,
a good point. Yeah.
There's no guarantee that they're going to be a great football player. Pat Surtain, you know what he is. You could bring him in today,
and
he could start today.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't understand. 1st-round picks in the NFL, they are so freaking valuable. They are so valuable. But that's a hell of a football player, man. That's all I have to say. And,
1st-round picks are valuable, but so are wins.
So are wins. And he would add wins to his defense. And then you would have a playmaker at all 3 levels. Like, you would have, all 3 levels. You would have the Grenards and the Dallas Turners and the Van Ginkels coming off the edge. You would have Pace and Cashman at the linebacker spot. Then you finally had a true playmaker at that cornerback position. Again, I understand. It's a lot to give up, but, Pat Surtain's a hell of a football player. But We'll be having a mailbag here in about 15 minutes or so. So if you guys want to get your question up on screen, use hashtag Vikings, or you guys could super chat and help support today's show. I would really, really appreciate it, as we're going to be getting into a hype segment here on the channel, as I'm going to be explaining to you guys why I think the Vikings had a perfect offseason here in Minnesota. As Jaden is saying, we need defensive tackle help. 100%. I definitely think we do as well. But, I'm curious to see what Jerry Tillery has to do. As something I've noticed about Kwesi over the past couple of seasons, he loves taking chances on former first-round picks who haven't worked out with the respective teams. I mean, even though Marcus Davenport didn't work out, obviously, last season, they took a chance on the talent that he had. But Roger in the chat as well. You guys better get excited for this segment, because I am going to be explaining why the Vikings had a perfect offseason here in Minnesota. I can't wait to do it, man. Looking back on it, think we're going to go down. We're going to remember what the Vikings did this offseason. I was going to say, I bet you it did. That's funny. United saying, I'm excited for this season. Me too, man. Me too. Erica Point in the chat. Shout out to you. Oh, yeah, no corny Wayans. Not today. Jaden Berry saying, Phillips gets hurt a lot. Just questions like the corner. Yeah, that's a good point, Jaden. No doubt. All right, but if you guys are ready to go, Max, thank you so much for the question. Great question. Hashtag Vikings. Mailbag coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, I wanted to explain to you guys why I believe the Vikings had a perfect offseason and why this man right here, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, absolutely knocked it out of the park. But before we dive into that, I need everybody to take a second and take a sip of this right here, the purple Kool-Aid, and show off your purple pride down in the comments section and give me a skull down below. And I'll just be honest, if you're not an optimistic Vikings fan, if you're not sipping this purple Kool-Aid, this is probably not the video for you. As if you guys have been watching this channel for a while, I'm a very optimistic person, and I'm very optimistic about this football team, and that's what this show today is all going to be about. So give me a skull down in the chat and show off your purple pride. But so my take on the Vikings offseason is I think it went perfectly, and I think it went, just like Kwesi probably had a plan, mapped out before the offseason started. And so I wanted to go back and I just wanted to look at all the smart decisions I believe that the Vikings did make. And you know what? Again, like I was saying, if you're not an optimistic fan and you're not putting a little bit of this in your drink right now, probably should click off today's show. But let's go back and look at the smart decisions that Kwesi has made. So number one, he didn't overpay for Kirk Cousins. We got reports that came out that it came down to guaranteed dollars and length of the contract for Kirk Cousins. They didn't want to match that 4-year, $180 million deal that the Falcons offered him. But I do think this. I think the Vikings could have overpaid Kirk Cousins, and he would 100% have stayed. That's why I was still shocked. When I was making my predictions before the year started, I thought Kirk Cousins was going to come back, and I thought it was going to be on a team-friendly deal, but, he didn't agree to the guaranteed money that the Vikings were offering him. But I think there's no doubt about it. If the Vikings offered Kirk the same deal that Atlanta did, Kirk would have signed here in a heartbeat. So they had the chance to bring number 8 back, but they decided it was time to move on. And I 100% agree with that. It was time to move on in Minnesota. It was time for a breath of fresh air. It was time to turn that page and get to the next chapter of the Vikings kind of franchise. And, now we're sitting and we're looking, we're like, man, we got a young quarterback. We made all these additions on defense. And, it's just a very optimistic future right now for the Vikings where, if you had Kirk Cousins, you're probably a better football team this upcoming year. No doubt about it. I bet you the Vikings, their win total right now is at 6.5. I bet you would have probably been around 9.5 or 10.5 even with Kirk Cousins as QB1. But it was time to move on. It was time to get that fresher breath there. And I just think it was a great move for the Minnesota Vikings. But also number 2 here. the Vikings dominated free agency this past season. And, they made countless numbers of moves that I absolutely loved. Like, talk about it specifically on defense, like the players they brought in. Because if we're being honest, there was a huge lack of talent on that side of the football. So what did Kwesi do? He hit it hard in free agency. We lost Danielle Hunter. Bam. Signed Jonathan Grenard to a 4-year mega deal. We needed even more edge help. We got Andrew Van Ginkel. We got Blake Cashman to be that linebacker next to Ivan Pace. And then obviously we needed cornerback help. What did they do? They went and signed Shaq Griffin. And I think back to this clip from Moneyball when Brad Pitt was trying to figure out how he was going to replace Jason Giambi. And you know how they talked about it? They said, we don't need to replace Jason Giambi. We need to replace the 30 home runs, the 120 RBIs that he gave to this ball club. It was very similar to how the Vikings attacked the Danielle Hunter situation. We said, hey, we need to replace those 15.5 to 20 sacks he gets us every year. What did they do? Dallas Turner, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, but other free agency moves from Minnesota. Can't hype this up enough. Aaron frickin' Jones, man. And this is going to be one of those moves where it's going to be late November and Aaron Jones is killing it. And we're going to be like, yeah, that was probably one of the best moves of the NFL offseason. The numbers overall from last season look like he had a down year, but he was in and out of the lineup due to injury. And when he came back from week 16 to the divisional round, he was the best running back in the National Football League. And the thing I love about this signing the most is that chip he's going to have on his shoulder to stick it to Green Bay, as they didn't just let him walk. They brought in another running back to replace him in Josh Jacobs. This dude's going to be playing with his hair on fire this season, and I just thought it was a great move by Kwesi to bring him in. But another former Green Bay Packer that they brought in, who apparently was absolutely killing it at Vikings minicamp, Robert Tonyan. Alec Lewis of The Athletic, he's great. Give him a follow on Twitter. He tweeted out after day 3 of Vikings minicamp that Tonyan has been absolutely dominating. And, I was talking to our Bears Now host, Harrison Graham, about Tonyan as he was with Chicago last season, and he was just honest. He said it was a down year for him, was not the same guy he was in Green Bay, but, also the Bears, they had Justin Fields at quarterback last season. They had one of the worst passing attacks in the NFL. I want to see what Tonyan's going to do next to the likes of Jefferson, of Addison, and also with TJ Hawkinson reportedly going to miss at least the first 6 weeks of the season. He has a true chance to be the number 1 pass-catching option at that tight end spot. And I think with the combination of him, Josh Oliver, even when TJ Hawkinson is out, they're going to be able to maintain. But another just, minuscule move that Kwesi made that is really going to pay dividends once this season gets underway. Now, I do want to talk about Sam Darnold here because I feel like people are, again, undervaluing who Sammy D is as a quarterback. And, I call him a bridge quarterback here, and that's 100% what he was brought in to do. But if you don't think Sam Darnold is starting week 1 for the Minnesota Vikings, you are going to be very surprised. Because let's look at his contract right here. So they give him a $6.25 million signing bonus, $2.5 million in base salary, $1 million in per game incentives, and only a $250,000 workout bonus. What is this telling me right here? The Vikings plan on playing him a lot. This is a true $10 million that Sam Darnold is getting. And, I just think at the Vikings, maybe if it was a guy like, I don't know, another bridge quarterback, Joe Flacco, then I think J.J. McCarthy would have had a better chance to start week 1. But Sam Darnold, he's 26 years old, and it's also a big reason why I believe in him. And, look back at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't start his first game until he was 25 years old. Even Jordan Love started when he was 24. Sam Darnold, I feel like people are just automatically, writing him off and saying he's a bust in the NFL. And listen, if you look at the tape, you look at what he's done in his career, I don't blame you at all. But this is the best support system he is going to be playing with since he came into the NFL. And also, he was a top 3 pick for a reason. He was a very, very hyped up prospect coming out of USC. Big body, has the dual threat ability. He just has had so many hills and valleys in his game where he wasn't really able to, play to that top 3 pick hype that he had. But also, I love this. He's coming from San Francisco. And I just think, in sports and also in life, people are such a product of their environment without even knowing. I forget who said it, but it's like you are you're a little bit of, or you're a little piece of all of your best friends. And I think that could even speak true to the NFL, where it's like he was around Kyle Shanahan, he was around John Lynch, some of the smartest football minds in the entire league. He got that tutelage from him. So I think we're going to be seeing the best version of him. And then also, two guys who, different career paths, but could have similar resurgences, Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. They left their team who they drafted them, or they left the team that drafted them. Went to another team, absolutely killed it. Turned into a Pro Bowler. Led their team to playoff victories. Am I saying Sam Darnold's going to do that? Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, but I could easily see that being the case for Sammy D. Now, number 4 for me, as on my list of smart decisions Kwesi has made, these two guys. 2 first-round picks, J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner. And the thing I love most about these two selections, they're both 21 years old. And you were able to get face of the franchise players on both sides of the ball at premium positions. If I had to power rank most important positions in the NFL, number 1, quarterback, no doubt about it. Number 2 for me, it's probably edge rusher. And if you go look at what the Houston Texans did last season, with them taking C.J. Stroud at 2, Will Anderson at 3, they got their quarterback of the future, they got their edge rusher of the future, and they're just going to keep on getting better. Will J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner live up to that type of hype that those two had? I don't know. We'll obviously have to wait and see on that one. But hey, both Big Ten quarterbacks, both edge rushers from Alabama. I love the direction that the Vikings chose to take with these picks. And the thing I love about this the most, they are not going to have, so much on their plate in the rookie year. J.J. McCarthy, more likely than not, won't play a snap during his rookie season. Dallas Turner, you already have 2 great edge rushers in front of him in Grenard and Van Ginkel. So you won't be putting, saying, hey, you're going to be our number 1 choice and you're going to be getting double teamed. He's just going to be able to come in and work on himself. That's why I love these 2 moves so much. And also, we heard all the reports about the Vikings trading up into the top 3, top 5. They only had to trade up to pick number 10 to land J.J. McCarthy, and then they were lucky enough to land Dallas Turner at pick 17. Both those were just absolutely fantastic. And then the last move, clap it up for that one. They extended Justin Jefferson. This was just a move that needed to get done, and in my opinion, it was a great deal. Yes, you did make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League, but you locked him up for 4 years. And I promise you, when we're looking at this contract in, 2026, yes, $39 million for a wide receiver, that's insane. But, with the salary cap going up and with guys like Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb going to get deals, I could see Jefferson being the 2nd or 3rd highest paid wide receiver. But these next 2 seasons, and that's why I expect the Vikings to be ultra aggressive, especially next free agency. They lowered his cap hit this year from $19 to $9 million. And then next season, he's only making $15 million. I could see the Vikings viewing next year as a Super Bowl kind of window for this ball club. Obviously, it comes down a lot of it to J.J. McCarthy if he's going to take that step. But the Vikings are going to have a ton of cap space heading into next season. You already spent a lot this past free agency. I could see them doing it again and just creating the San Francisco 49er type of feel to this roster. Now, to conclude, my thoughts on the Vikings offseason. Yes, if we would have kept Kirk Cousins, we would have been a better football team this season. But the Vikings have set themselves up to be one of the best teams in the NFL in 2 years. And it could be next season. Like if J.J. McCarthy, if he takes that leap and it's like, oh, snap, we got a dude from Michigan, yeah, maybe next year the Vikings are going to be a hell of a football team competing for Super Bowls. But when J.J. is on years 3, 4, and 5 of that rookie contract, and the Vikings have built this stacked 53-man roster around him, and you got Kevin O'Connell, and you got Brian Flores, it could be magic here in Minnesota, and maybe the Vikings will lift that Lombardi trophy for the first time in franchise history. But you guys let me know. I want you guys to grade the Vikings offseason for me, A, B, C, D, or F. You guys just heard anything I just said. You guys probably know I'm giving this an A+. But hey, maybe you guys disagree with me. Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, guys, follow me on Twitter. That's the handle right there, @PatSieps. Would really, really appreciate it if you guys could do so. But again, optimistic video today. Hopefully you guys had your purple Kool-Aid right next to you as, I decided to take a positive outlook on the Vikings offseason. So see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. As always, Skol Vikes. All right, let me know. Grade the Vikings offseason for me. Is again a very positive video that was, but hopefully you guys are seeing it the way I am. Harvey giving it a B. As Harvey, also appreciate it, sending $1 super chat. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to you. If you guys could give me a skull Harvey down below in the comments section. He's sending a peach. Shout out to skull Harvey down there. Arpin8, what's up, baby? What's up, buddy? Welcome in the chat. Roger saying, only other move we could have made is to bring back Ed Donatel. Roger, that's not funny. That's not funny, Raj. That's not funny. Jeff Bartlett, shout out to Jeff. Thank you so much for always supporting, on all the videos we do here. Really, really do appreciate it. Saying Skull Harvey. Roger Bong saying Skull Harvey. Arpin8 saying, does the Diggs-Jefferson trade finally have a winner? We'll talk about that here in a little bit. As Stefon Diggs kept running his mouth about his former football team, so I kind of want to give my thoughts on that. But we are going to have a mailbag here coming up in about a minute. So if you guys could use hashtag Vikings, we need more questions from you guys. Roger, get a question in there. Arpin8, get a question in there as well. United Mexican States, I would appreciate it if you got a question. Use hashtag Vikings. Talk about whatever you guys want. As United Mexican States saying, what did Diggs say? We'll show you it here in a second. Is he was kind of hinting that the Vikings did him a little dirty. He was saying the Vikings did him a little dirty. Roger, I appreciate you. Max, also shout out to you for getting a question in there. You never read mine, Roger. Yours will be on there on screen. Don't you worry about that. United saying, oh, nah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. Skull Nation, not going to talk about that. Not informed enough to do so. Roger saying Diggs is a legend, and he was a legendary diva. He reminded me of Bernard Berrien. Yeah, I mean, Diggs is better than Berrien, but, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree, Arpin8. Send Ed Donatello to Green Bay, no doubt. All right, but we're going to dive into this mailbag here. If you guys want to, you can send a super chat even while we're in the cut, and it'll go up on screen right away. But, Trace, if you're ready, let's dive into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. We got a fun show coming up for you guys today as Stefon Diggs talked about the Vikings-Bills trade from 2020 as he gave some insight that maybe the Vikings did him dirty. And then on the second half of today's show, we're going to be answering questions from you guys as a part of our weekly live show. Absolutely love this part of the week where I just get to chop it up with you guys and talk about your favorite football team. But if you guys could, my Twitter is @PatSeeps, and I got the link for this in the comments and description of today's show. If you guys could give me a follow over there, I would really appreciate it. Trying to up my Twitter game. Got my bosses telling me that I need to get to 1,000 followers. So if you guys could help me out, that's the handle, @PatSeeps. And if you guys just want more Vikings content in your life, give me a follow over there. But, Stefon Diggs. Stefon. He was doing an interview this past week, and somebody asked him about the Vikings sending him to Buffalo. This is what he said. He said, I don't know if they sent me to Buffalo with the most kindness, with the most great intent, but all's well that ends well. When I got to Buffalo, Josh Allen, who is still my guy, he embraced me, and we spent a lot of time. And I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Now, I want to focus in on that first part. I don't know if they sent me to Buffalo with the most kindness, with the most great intent. Now, Stefon, I just disagree with you. The Vikings sent you to a situation where you had a young and up-and-coming quarterback in Josh Allen, who is undisputed a top 5 quarterback in the league. Maybe he wasn't that at the time, but he still showed promise. They sent you to a place where you would be the number 1 option, and that is the thing he was griping about the most when he was here in Minnesota. It was, too much Adam Thielen, because in the year before, the 2019 season, Thielen broke the record for most 100-yard games to start off the year, and I think Diggs was looking at that, feeling a little salty, and it gets me this. Diggs never seems happy. Like, even when he was at Buffalo for the past couple of seasons, you have a top 3 quarterback in Josh Allen. The whole offense is built around you, and he still found reasons to complain about the situation he was in, hence why now he is now with the Houston Texans and I can already see it now. C.J. Stroud has a couple big-time throws to Tank Dell, and Tank Dell has a couple of big-time games. I could see number 14 or, actually number 1 now, getting a little unhappy. But let's take a look back at the Stefon Diggs trade where the Vikings did send him to Buffalo. So this was the total haul that the Vikings did receive. It was a 2020 first-round pick number 22 from the Buffalo Bills, where, hey, they selected a pretty good receiver, if I do say so myself, in Justin Jefferson. But on top of that, they also had 3 other picks from that year's draft, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th. And then obviously the Bills, they received Diggs and a 7th-round pick. So, I used to call this the most win-win trade in NFL history, but the Bills didn't even make an AFC championship game with him on the roster. I think the Vikings, no doubt, won this trade looking back on it. You got the better receiver on a younger and cheaper deal. You also got more draft capital as well. But let's take a look back at the time Stefon did spend in Minnesota. So, he was awesome, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, when people ask me, or if you would have asked me 3-4 years ago about who's my favorite, or who's my favorite Vikings player, I probably would have said Diggs. I love the celebration when he would, hit the can you dig it, and he would start digging into the ground. And, the numbers he put up are ridiculous with the Vikings. In 70 games played, 4,600 yards, averaging 66 yards per game, had 30 touchdowns for Minnesota. And I hate to do this. Hey, it's my man Trace Gerard is producing today's show, diehard Saints fan, but I had to show my favorite play in Vikings history. It was the Minneapolis Miracle. I remember watching this game as, you look back on it, the Vikings were up 21-0, and then Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara was catching wheel routes on the top of Eric Kendricks. Like, it was all burning down quickly, but Stefon Diggs turned it around with 10 seconds left, and I can just hear it in my head. Diggs, sideline, touchdown, coming in from Joe Buck. Truly, truly one of my favorite memories, if not my favorite memory from being a Vikings fan. So I know Diggs, maybe you call him a diva now. You can call him whatever name you want. But in my opinion, no doubt about it, he is a Vikings legend. But you guys let me know. Controversial question here. Is Stefon Diggs a Vikings legend? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down in the comment section. I'll make this the pin comment on today's show because I'm really curious to see what the fan base has to say about this. So let me know your thoughts. Is Stefon Diggs a Vikings legend? Y for yes or N for no. Dum24 coming in saying, did you see this stuff about J.J. McCarthy holding out of training camp? So I did not want to talk about this just because don't believe it whatsoever, but this came from a pretty popular Twitter account, Pretty Ricky, and he has nailed a lot of NFL scoops this offseason, and specifically related to contract disputes. He's been on top of it, but he tweeted out the other day this week, and he said if J.J. McCarthy does not get his signing bonus all up front, he will be holding out of Vikings training camp. And the reason I laugh at this is, I actually am a big Pretty Ricky fan, I will say so. But the reason I laugh about this is nothing like what J.J. McCarthy is built about. Like, I don't think him as a 21-year-old rookie is going to perform a holdout just because he doesn't get his entire signing bonus up front. And I do want to make this note. The Vikings have never given a rookie their signing bonus all up front. And people are kind of freaking out about that. They're like, oh, will they do that with JJ? Like, they should. Very similar to the Houston Texans last season. They have never given a rookie their signing bonus all up front until C.J. Stroud, and they did so for him. So JJ's due $12.8 million in signing bonus. I think he's going to get the whole thing. But, yeah, dumb. I did see that tweet floated out there. But, hey, maybe you want to get a J.J. McCarthy jersey because I guarantee you he will be at training camp July 27th. And if you guys want to get one before then, head to this link, chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. I'll put this link for you guys in the comment section and description on today's show. Awesome. He's rocking the number 9. This is going to be one of the hottest jerseys at US Bank Stadium this season. I already got mine. Can't wait to wear it for the watch parties. So if you guys want to get yours as well, that's the link right there, chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Let's kick it to Rocky here, the cutest puppy I have ever seen, saying, what do you think their record will be within the division? Good question here. So within the division, let's just start off with the Chicago Bears. I think the Vikings could split with Chicago. People think Chicago's going to be a way better football team. I just disagree. And I think a lot of that has to do with people think Caleb Williams will be, significantly better than whoever is the starting quarterback for Minnesota. But let's just say they split there. Lions is an uphill battle. I think they're probably going to drop both to Detroit. But the team I think that's going to come in last place in this division is the Green Bay Packers. I think Jordan Love's a good quarterback, but we've only seen 9 good games from him. I don't think he's proven as a franchise quarterback just yet. I want to see more data. I want to see more film instead of just a 2.5-month run. So I'll go 3-3. I think we split with the Bears, sweep the Packers, and lose twice to the Lions. Max Cardozo coming in saying, I feel like the Vikings should trade for Denzel Ward. What do you think about that? Great question, Max. Thank you so much for tuning in. Denzel Ward. High-end talent. Would definitely fit that, cornerback 1 mold. Just the only thing is, I think you're probably going to have to give up, a premium draft pick to land him as, the Browns value him, really, really highly. So, I would love for the Vikings to do it, but if they're going to trade for a top-end corner, I would rather have them just, go all in instead of, trying to save a round on a pick and going out and getting, a guy like Denzel Ward. But, Max, really do appreciate it. But my man Harvey Buxton coming in with the next question saying, what happens if JJ is a bust? What would you do? I'll be very disappointed. I would get up on here and I would own it. I would say I was wrong about JJ McCarthy. No doubt about it. But Harvey, I just don't think that's going to be the case. And, what would the Vikings do if McCarthy is a bust? You reset it and try again. And that's why I was so happy with the Vikings offseason, because they got themselves out of this purgatory zone. Because if you would have ran it back with Kirk Cousins, Vikings would have won about 7 to 11 games this past season. No doubt about it. But now with J.J. McCarthy, you probably limited your ceiling on this year. But now for the next couple of years, with a quarterback on a rookie deal, the Vikings are going to be able to put a insane roster around J.J. McCarthy. So, what happens if he's a bust? I'll get up on the show and I'll own it and say I was wrong about J.J., but I'll tell you what, I'm very confident I won't be wrong about that one. Max coming in saying, I really think the Vikings should trade for DeMarcus Lawrence because I think he would be a good mentor for Dallas Turner. What do you feel about this? I like him as a player. DeMarcus Lawrence has been great throughout his NFL career on the older side now, but I think in terms of a mentor for Dallas Turner, I think he's already got a bunch of great ones in that locker room. Especially on the defensive side of football. Like Harrison Smith, even though totally different positions, safety and edge rusher, but just having a guy on the defensive side of the field to be in your ear and tell you what it takes to be a elite NFL player. I already think he has it. And plus with the edge position for Minnesota, you already got a bunch of dudes there. People forget about a guy like Andre Carter, the UDFA out of Army last season, where he is, I don't want to call it a guarantee he makes the roster this season, but I'm right there of calling it because dating back to 2 drafts ago, before the start of 2 football seasons ago, Andre Carter was a projected first-round pick, but his production tailed off. He wasn't the same guy, caused him to go undrafted, but now all the coaches are raving about him throughout the Vikings offseason program. So I think the Vikings are good at the edge department. I actually think they have one of the better groups here in the NFL. Totally not a pro gamer saying, do you think Sam Darnold will have the best year of his career with the Minnesota Vikings? No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I think Sam Darnold, and, I've said this so many times here on the channel, it's he hasn't had a fair shot, in my opinion. I don't think New York with the Jets, he had a fair shot there. Going to Carolina, where he actually played his best stretch of football, that was not even, close to the same roster the Vikings are going to be able to put around him this year. You got an offensive-minded head coach, 2 great weapons at receiver, great running back, a talented defense, a overall great coaching staff. Even if Sam Darnold just plays the same as he has throughout his NFL career, his numbers are going to go up because of the guys around him. So I think Sam Darnold, and maybe I am drinking too much purple Kool-Aid right now. I'm going to call it right here. Vikings go 10-7. They're a wild card team, come second in the division, and they are in the playoffs, and we'll have to wait and see on matchups if they end up winning that one. But I think Sam Darnold's going to lead the Vikings to this regular season. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, if you guys could give me a skull down in the comment section, I would really appreciate it. Give me a skull if you bleed purple and gold. And as always, guys, that's a Twitter handle right there, at Pat Sieps. If you guys want more Vikings content on your Twitter timeline, give me a follow over there, and it'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's mailbag. See you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes. All right, appreciate it, everybody, for tuning in to today's show. Let me know, is Stefon Diggs a Vikings legend? Then we'll hop on out of here. Roger saying Skol. United saying Skol. Thank you guys so much for watching the entire program today. Really, really do appreciate it. As Arpin8, yes, I think that Stefon Diggs trade finally has a winner, and it is the Minnesota Vikings. Joey in the chat saying Skol. Ben saying he is a legend, and, I think he is a legend. I think Stefon Diggs is a Vikings legend. He has the greatest play in Vikings history. I think just by default, he will be. He will be. But we are going to sign on out of here, guys. I just want to say thank you so much for watching today's program and today's live show. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already, but shout out to all the real ones who tuned in. Been awesome support on the channel as of lately. So thank you so much. As Harvey coming in at the last second with an $11 or $10 super chat. If you guys could flood the chat with the Skol Harveys down below. Harvey, I appreciate it. Saying great show. Harvey, I appreciate it. Just I love these live shows. Just get up on here, get to talk ball with you guys. Roger saying thanks, Pat. No, thank you, Roger, for always tuning in. Ty Man saying Skol Harvey. United saying Skol Harvey. Rocky, totally not a pro gamer. Roger again saying Skol Harvey. I'll tell you what, guys. First preseason game, the Vikings are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's most likely going to be J.J. McCarthy starting at quarterback. And I'll tell you what, that watch party, for all the people who tuned in during last season, it's just going to get better, and it is going to be an absolute hoot. So I would just be patient. The watch party is going to get off the train.
JJ versus AOC, Big Ten battle.
JJ versus AOC, yeah. What are you, Purdue? Yeah, Purdue. Yeah, that's a good point. It's going to be fun, guys. I can't wait for the season. As June 12th, man, we're right around the corner from this preseason getting started in about 2 months. Yeah, Roger said it's going to be nuts, man. It is going to be awesome. It is going to be awesome. So, seriously, thank you guys so much for all the support. Couldn't be here without you guys. All credit to you. So, thank you guys so much for watching. See y'all next time. As always, Skol Vikes.